welcome back. Or if you're just joining, my name is Maya, and welcome to my channel, Cranleyplace, where I'm focused on Hermès scarf style, inspiration, and more. Before we get started, let me give a shout out to all the channel members, and special welcome to the knot connoisseurs and elegant insiders. I appreciate your ongoing support. If you haven't seen the membership options, please do check them out. In this video, I'll review a 140 centimeter silk twill from Hermès's Spring-Summer 2026 season called Bouquet Final by Katie Scott. We'll take a look at the artist's background, the design inspiration and visual architecture, and then a collector's ranking of the available colorways and why. Let's get started. Katie Scott has developed one of the most immediately recognizable visual languages within contemporary Hermès design. Her background is rooted in scientific and botanical illustration, and you can see that influence quite clearly in the way she constructs imagery, highly detailed, observational, layered with natural forms, but still deeply decorative. What makes her work especially compelling is that it never feels merely botanical in a traditional sense. There's always a tension between precision and fantasy, science and imagination, order and abundance. And that balance has made her designs particularly popular with collectors who appreciate scarves that feel immersive and visually rich. Bouquet Final first appeared in the Fall-Winter 2025 collection as a 90 centimeter silk twill carré, and now returns in the much larger GM 140 centimeter format, which changes the experience of the design quite dramatically. Because this is a kind of composition that benefits from scale. In a 90 centimeter, the detail feels concentrated and jewel-like. In a 140 centimeter, the design opens up. You begin to experience not just the individual flowers and insects, but the atmosphere of the composition itself. And that shift from object to environment is part of what makes this reissue interesting. The title, Bouquet Final, immediately suggests theatricality, the final bouquet at the end of a performance. And the design absolutely carries that sense of climax and abundance. Visually, the composition unfolds like an exploding floral arrangement. Flowers unfurl outward, stems curve and overlap. Insects and smaller details appear almost unexpectedly throughout the scene. There's an incredible density here, but it's carefully controlled. Katie Scott has a remarkable ability to organize complexity. Even though the design is filled with detail, your eye never becomes trapped. Instead, it moves rhythmically through the composition, from one bloom to another, from foreground to background, and importantly, the scarf does not rely on rigid symmetry. The movement feels organic, almost tidal. That creates a much softer reading than many traditional Hermès compositions. Now, considering the effect of the 140 centimeter format, this is where the enlargement from 90 centimeter to 140 centimeters becomes especially important. In the smaller carré, the design reads more like a concentrated botanical study, but in the larger format, it becomes immersive. So when worn, the flowers stretch and disperse across the body. Sections appear and disappear depending on the drape, and the composition starts to feel atmospheric rather than fixed. This is a scarf that changes constantly in motion. And because the forms are organic rather than geometric, fragmentation actually enhances this effect. Seeing only portions of petals, leaves, or insects makes the design more intriguing, not less. Another reason this design works so well is the softness of the medium itself. The slightly diffused texture softens the intricate detail just enough to prevent visual overload. That balance is crucial. Without it, the composition could easily feel too dense. Instead, it feels lush, layered, and painterly. There are currently only 3 standard colorways to be found online, plus a plissé version, starting with the Blanc, Vert Celadon, and Rose Multicolore, the strongest collector piece. Ethereal, refined, and quietly luminous in mood, in daylight this will read with exceptional clarity and dimension, while indoors it will soften into watercolor-like tones. Collector appeal should be very high. This is elegant but distinctive. Timeless with artistic softness and style, this colorway allows the intricacy of Katie Scott's line work to breathe. The white ground creates space around the floral forms, while the celadon and rose tones add delicacy without becoming overly sweet. This is the version most likely to feel enduring over time. Next, the Rouge, Orange, et Blanc, the most dramatic. Theatrical, warm, and expressive in mood. In daylight, this will read extremely vibrant, while indoors, it will remain rich, with almost a glowing saturation. This will have strong appeal for statement collectors. It is a bold classic that fully embraces the title, Bouquet Final. It feels celebratory, almost operatic. The warmth of the palette intensifies the sense of movement and abundance. Next, we have the Bleu Ciel, Saffron, and Bouton d'Or, the most radiant and seasonal. Light-filled and optimistic in mood, in daylight this will read bright and expansive, while indoors the soft golden warmth emerges. This will have broad but slightly more seasonal collector appeal. With its contemporary elegance, this is perhaps the easiest version to wear casually. The blue ground creates airiness, while the saffron and yellow tones bring energy without heaviness. Then we have the plissé version, the fuchsia, capucine, and turquoise, the wild card of the collection. Vibrant, artistic, and fashion-forward in mood. In daylight, this will have extremely high energy, while indoors, the colors will deepen dramatically through the pleating. For collectors, this one is more niche, but potentially highly desirable in the long term. Avant-garde in character, the pleating changes the design completely. Instead of reading as a botanical composition, it becomes almost abstract. Flashes of color and texture appearing and disappearing with movement. This is less about illustration and more about transformation. For collectors who enjoy experimental Hermès pieces, this may actually become the most memorable version of the release. Bouquet Final is one of those designs that demonstrates how differently a scarf can behave depending on scale and format. What began as an intricate 90 centimeter carré becomes, in the 140 centimeter format, something much more immersive and atmospheric. And through Katie Scott's botanical lens, the design moves beyond floral illustration into something almost theatrical, a composition about movement, abundance, and transformation. And in motion, the scarf feels less like a static image and more like a living surface, which is exactly what makes it so compelling in this format. So there you have it, more on this design from Hermès' Spring-Summer 2026 collection. Please like and share the video if you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think in the comments. In future episodes, I'll share other scarf reviews, inspiration, and more, so be sure to hit that subscribe button to be notified of new videos. Thanks again for joining me today. Until next time!